Hakann, Unity Consciousness. My dearest brothers and sisters, this is Hakann speaking. I greet you in peace and love. Let's talk about individualism versus collectivism first. We'll get to unity consciousness later in this message. People who like individualism may argue that individualism equals freedom and that it has led to a free and prosperous West. They also point out that collectivism means that people's rights and self-expression and individuality get trampled on, and that people get forced into a societal mold. They may say that collectivism means the Soviet Union, and that it failed, and that it wasn't a good place to live in. On the other hand, people who like collectivism may argue that everything goes to hell if people just individualistically do what they wish, as indeed the individualistic West has been declining of late. Furthermore, it's lonely in a sense if everyone is just individually doing what they want. So, what is better, individualism or collectivism? Well, if half the population prefers one thing, and the other half of the population prefers the other thing, then usually both are flawed in a way. If one of these concepts actually was simply correct, then it wouldn't have become such a discussion. Personally, us Pleiadians don't really use the concepts of individualism versus collectivism. Instead, we value unity consciousness and freedom. So we have the freedom that on earth comes from individualism, and the group harmony and group prosperity that on earth comes from unity consciousness. Meanwhile, we don't have the oppression or stifling of expression that can come from collectivism, because we're pro-freedom. And we don't have the destructive selfishness that can come from individualism, because we have unity consciousness. So, we wouldn't dream of forcing someone to conform or forcing someone to serve the state in the way that Earth collectivist societies may do. Yet this works out because our unity consciousness means that people don't do the evil, selfish things that happen in individualistic societies. Of these two things, freedom should be self-explanatory. We have no taxes and barely any laws, and this works for us because we have a relatively high level of consciousness. And our society is good enough that people feel happy to volunteer and contribute. What does unity consciousness really mean, though? Because it's nice to call people brother or sister, or to say things like we are all one, but that's just the surface level. What does it really mean? Well, unity consciousness means that you perceive others as being part of yourself to at least a large extent. It doesn't mean that you're literally unable to distinguish you from others, but it does mean that, for example, if others are suffering, you feel at least to an extent the same kind of motivation to help that you would feel if your shoulder was wounded. Now, a unity consciousness person might not feel the urge to help others to quite the same extent as treating a physical wound on their own body. But it's not that different either. To a unity consciousness person, ignoring the suffering of others just literally doesn't make sense, in the same sense that ignoring a wound on your physical body wouldn't make sense. Now, many people will agree with this definition, but the problem is that to many people this is just a rational concept, and rationally understanding this isn't yet unity consciousness. To achieve unity consciousness, you need to embody it. And from the definition, it's not immediately obvious how you could go about embodying this. Sure, a high consciousness person can just be and automatically embody unity consciousness without effort. However, most people receiving this message aren't yet in unity consciousness. So I will suggest a way of behaving that can serve as one possible stepping stone towards unity consciousness. One possible stepping stone towards unity consciousness is who you are is first determined by your own reincarnating soul. So first, you should listen to your soul. Who you are is second determined by you being an Earth human. So second, you should work to benefit Earth humans. Who you are is third determined by your mind. So third, you should work to benefit yourself. For example, most likely you are more spiritually advanced than the average person on Earth, because you are tuning into these messages. Probably your soul, who you could see as the real you, nudged your mind, and orchestrated events so that you woke up, at least partially. So who you are is first determined by your own reincarnating soul, which is why you're most likely more spiritually advanced than the average person on your world. Second, who you are is determined by the fact that you are an Earth human. After all, if you were born in one of the reptilian worlds where reptilians harm each other for their own benefit, most likely you would do the same thing too, except perhaps if your soul nudged you to be higher consciousness than the people around you. But if your soul didn't nudge you one way or the other, it is quite unlikely that your mind would decide to start behaving in a very reptilian-like way. And also, if you were born in a Pleiadian world, most likely you would be a reasonably typical Pleiadian, except perhaps if your soul strongly nudged you into a non-standard direction. Most Pleiadians are Pleiadian-like, and most Arcturians are Arcturian-like, and most Reptilians are Reptilian-like, and most Earth humans are Earth human-like. So a being's birth planet more strongly affects who they are than their own rational mind. You see, few beings behave in a way that's atypical for their planet purely because that's what their mind decided, except if their soul nudged their mind in that direction. So, who you are is determined first by your soul, second by you being an Earth human, and third determined by your mind. Correspondingly, it only makes sense to first listen to your soul, to second try and benefit Earth humans as a whole, and third to try and benefit yourself. What does that look like? Well, first listen to either your soul or your intuition, which comes from your soul. Don't confuse emotions and unconscious beliefs with intuition. Or if you're unable to do either, listen to your guides or follow what resonates. Probably your soul will want you to dedicate a certain amount of time and energy to spiritual practice and self-healing, and a certain amount of time and energy to helping others or being kind to others, and a certain amount of time and energy to things that you find fun or that nourish you. And likely your soul will give you some guidance and advice here, without micromanaging everything in your life. Second, for the time that your soul wants you to help others, go do whatever you think is most needed. Be the change you want to see in the world, even if it's hard. And third, for your personal time, just do what you find fun, or what nourishes you. And remember that most likely your soul wants you to have a reasonable amount of fun time and relaxation, etc. Most likely your soul doesn't want you to spend every moment of the day volunteering to help humanity. You can see how society would tremendously benefit if everyone would behave like this. Because after all, most Earth people are doing the third thing on the list most, or even all of the time, where they just do what benefits them individually and perhaps a few loved ones. And most people aren't listening to their soul, and thus aren't living an authentic life. On the other hand, most Pleiadians understand that who they are was determined more by the fact that they were born in the Pleiades than by their own rational mind. Hence Pleiadians understand the importance of protecting, maintaining, and further improving our society, because our society is so determinative to ourselves and to the other people in our society. We are not under the illusion that it's primarily our personal intelligence and ambition that is the reason why we are the way we are. Instead, we know that we are the way we are because we grew up in the Pleiades. This is why our society works, with no taxation and practically no laws. Because if people to an extent identify with their society and their group, if they have unity consciousness, then they are happy to do volunteer work and treat other people with kindness. Some people might point out that average Earth humans already see themselves as an American, or a Christian, or a left-winger, etc. I wouldn't quite categorize that as unity consciousness, because while those people may see some people as being part of themselves to an extent, they typically see other people as very much not being part of themselves. It's not unity consciousness to include the people you like, and exclude the people you don't. In fact, hating evil people isn't unity consciousness. Sure, wanting evil people to be stopped is consistent with unity consciousness, but hating them is not. So, we are near the end of this message. For the very few people who already embody unity consciousness, this message may not have been too useful. That said, most people don't yet embody unity consciousness, and there's a huge difference between rationally understanding the concept of unity consciousness and embodying it. This applies to many spiritual principles, by the way. Rationally understanding them is useful, but you usually have to do significant amounts of spiritual practice to actually embody them, and embodying them is where the real gold is. For the majority who doesn't yet embody unity consciousness, I think the stepping stone can be a useful tool. Basically, listen to your soul first, work to benefit humanity second, and do what benefits yourself third. That said, keep in mind that your soul likely wants you to spend some amount of time having fun and nourishing yourself, so you don't need to spend every waking moment doing volunteer work. In fact, if you're in a tough situation, your soul might very well want you to put on your own air mask first. Listening to your soul first, and working to benefit humanity second is, I think, one possible good stepping stone towards unity consciousness. It is not the only possible path. Doing a whole bunch of meditation is another path that can lead to embodied unity consciousness. But this is a possible path. I respect you very much, and you are in my thoughts every single day. With all my love. Your star brother, Hakann. The collective of Ascended Masters, tap into this powerful tool that you all have. Blessings. We are Thymus. We are the collective of Ascended Masters. We understand you, and where you're coming from, where your motivations are, and we wish for you to know these things about yourselves as well. We invite you to see yourselves as always having an agenda, or to put it another way, an intention, and we advise you to know what that intention is. When you are having a conversation with another person, and you're about to share something with that person, understand what your intention is for saying what you are about to say. When you are about to take an action, understand what the intention is for the outcome of that action. Knowing in advance what your intentions are will help you in determining whether it is the best choice, and understanding what your intentions are will also help you in changing your intentions slightly so that they better align with who you really are as a source energy being. In other words, Source would always be seeking to heal, to uplift, to inform, to align, whenever taking an action or speaking words through you. And when you are not aligned with your Source, you feel that as discord in your body, tension, pain, negative emotion, illness. And so, again, these intentions are very important for you to know about and for you to restate and alter, if you need to. If you go into something with good intentions, that counts, that matters. And when you know what your intentions are, you know by how you feel, whether you are aligning with those intentions or not. It is a good idea to state your intentions when you wake up in the morning. What is it that this day is going to be about for me? What is it that I want to focus on? What is it that I want to feel? How is it that I wish to vibrate? And again, knowing those intentions will help you align with them, and you will be more aware when you are out of alignment with your intentions. Overall, your intentions, whether you know it or not, are always going to be for you to align more with Source, to become more of the Source energy being that you already are. And so, it is good for you to know that is the overall intention for this lifetime, or mission, or purpose, or whatever you want to call it. It's not about doing one thing, accomplishing anything. It's always about you becoming more of who and what you really are, as a Source energy being, of unconditional love. So your emotions will also guide you in relationship to your being in alignment, or not with that overall intention. And we know that deep down inside you all know that. You all understand it, and you can put yourselves into greater alignment with that overall intention by doing some self-examination, by reflecting on your life and what it's been about, what you want it to be about, and what you believe it can be about from where you are right now. We know that when you align with your true identity, and when that Source energy love is pouring through you, that is the ultimate experience of being there as a physical human being in a body. So we advise you to pay more attention, be more on the alert, and do so lovingly and with kindness, because we know that you're doing the best you can, and that sometimes it does take time for you to move forward from those old patterns, but we also know that you can do it, that you will do it, and in many cases, you are already doing it. So give yourselves credit for when you do, acknowledge yourselves and pat yourselves on the back, because you're going to get much more success out of all of this by doing those things than by admonishing yourselves for not being in alignment with that overall intention that you and everyone else has of becoming more of the source energy being that you truly are. That is all for now. We are Thymus. We are the collective of ascended masters, and we are always amongst you. Thoughts on healthy eating. Eating healthy is something I've been a bit obsessed with for the last couple of decades, and I've transformed my eating in some really fundamental ways. I eat way less junk food than before. I have developed a real love for whole, nutritious foods. I'm vegan, for ethical reasons. I don't often eat to comfort myself, sometimes I do. When I do eat comfort foods, I'm no longer harsh with myself. These are huge transformations for me, and they've changed my health and my mindset towards health. At 51 years old, I feel incredibly healthy, and I'd like to share my thoughts on healthy eating, in case it might help. That doesn't mean I think I'm perfect, or even better than anyone else, but I always appreciate learning from how others approach healthy eating. And I'm hoping you'll appreciate my approach. How I think about healthy eating. I used to think about healthy eating as this sacrifice that I needed to make in order to be good, whatever that means. Like, if I was eating unhealthy foods, then it was something shameful I was doing to myself. As you can imagine, that's not very helpful. Society gives us messages that we should be ashamed if we eat junk food. It's even in the name, when all we're really trying to do is enjoy good food, or comfort ourselves. These are not shameful things. That said, I do think there are foods that are nourishing for my body, and help it to grow into something strong, alive, and prepared to handle life's challenges. And so I don't shame myself anymore for eating sweets, fried foods, snacks. I enjoy them. But I also have found the eating approach that makes me feel amazing in my life, and that's what I try to do most of the time. What I find important, the most important thing to me, are to eat whole, plant foods most of the time. Those include vegetables of all kinds, especially greens, beans, and lentils, whole grains, including brown rice, oats, etc. Potatoes of various kinds, fruits of all kinds, nuts and seeds. If my meal is almost all whole plant foods, then I feel incredible. These foods are so good for my body. Now, I don't think animal foods are necessarily bad for you. You don't have to be vegan to be healthy. If I were to eat animal foods, I would probably eat mostly fish and some poultry, but I don't see a need to do so for my health, and would prefer not to harm other beings if it's not absolutely necessary. I thrive on these foods, and my health is excellent. I do get everything tested every year, or so. My favorite meals and foods. So what do meals look like when you eat mostly whole plant foods? Well, there's a ton of incredible recipes out there, but I'm pretty boring. I eat mostly the same meals every day, because it's just easier for me to prepare a big batch, and not have to think about it. Some of my favorites: lentils and steamed kale. I eat a big plate of cooked green/brown lentils and kale, and season it all with soy sauce, lemon juice, olive oil, cayenne powder, and nutritional yeast. A recipe from my friend Jessie. Lentil soup. I saute onions, mushrooms, carrots, and broccoli in my Instant Pot, then throw in lentils, kale, cubed tofu, and veggie broth with spices: rosemary, thyme, sage, bay leaves, black pepper. High pressure for 10 minutes. Put some lemon juice or balsamic vinegar on top to season. Oats with berries or bananas and seeds with cinnamon. Tofu scramble with lots of veggies. Baked sweet potato with hummus and avocado. Bananas with peanut butter is my treat. Protein shake with pea protein and soy milk. If I do a weight workout, I also love vegan chili, veggie burgers, pasta, lasagna, Thai curry, and more. But the meals above are my faves. How I learned to love these foods. I'll admit, I didn't always love vegetables or things like lentils or quinoa or tofu. I was a meat eater and loved fast food and snacks. The way I learned to love the foods I mentioned above is slowly. First, I adapted my favorite dishes to be slightly more healthy. I diced up carrots and greens and put it in spaghetti sauce and chili. I would eat a small side salad with my dishes, and season it with crunchy things. Then I would eat veggies with things that made them taste better: hummus, salad dressing. I'd eat sweet potatoes with butter and cinnamon. Eventually I really embraced veggies, and would eat a huge salad for lunch, and would make steamed or raw veggies the biggest part of my meals. Finally, I slowly started to cut out sugar from many of my meals, fried less of my foods, and cut out greasy things for the most part, and explored more and more delicious healthy foods. Staying on the path, I'll admit, I go on stretches where I don't eat the healthiest, maybe a couple of weeks where we have a lot of visitors and I'll just eat whatever we're making for them, or eat out a lot more. I tend to eat less healthily during the holidays or when I travel. I'm okay with all of that. I've learned to not beat myself up and just enjoy the food. Why not enjoy life? But then I've learned to just get back on track. Each day is a fresh start where I can decide what will nourish my body the most. And more, I make choices that are delicious and nutritious and are a part of the life that I love. With love. Leo Babauta. Zen Habits. The Elders, Reincarnation 101. Do you wonder about reincarnation? What does this one word mean to you? Is it something you believe to exist? So what perspective do you hold on reincarnation? What do you believe this one word suggests? Reincarnation simply means that you have had multiple times in which to understand this world and how it operates. You have a soul purpose that some know as their divine purpose, or, as we term it, your original purpose. This purposeful objective was to be enacted within the first time or two of incarnating here. But when that did not occur, your soul set up subsequent lifetimes. All were meant to facilitate an understanding and the means for a purposeful discovery to occur. The agreement or contracted dimension, the agreement some know as the contract your soul entered into. It's what keeps you bound here. It's why you cannot decide one day that you do not wish to return. It is not a choice to be made now. That choice was made prior to the embodiments that resulted from there. Now, you are meant to enact that thing that you, vis-a-vis your soul, want to know. And what is wanted is the energy equivalent of what this or that thing is. It is an understanding. It is wanting to know this thing, and the energy you are to create in the doing of the thing. Immersion. The problem, it would seem, is that many, if not most here, entered into the rounds of rebirth, asking for an immersion experience. Immersion was to allow for a more pure experience to be had. Thus, it would enable more to be known, but not through the lens that the soul had known prior to its time here. And so, I'll suggest that the soul no longer remembers much of their lineage or past. For those reading these words, if you have developed a means to communicate with your soul, ask them who they were before journeying here. Ask your soul what came before this world, known as the earth experience. Amnesia. I'll further suggest that it is not that they did not exist before this time, but, more specifically, that they do not recall their earlier existence, because a slow amnesia entered, and that amnesia entered due to the immersion experience requested, and now their lineage, their past, is no longer remembered. You, as your soul's feet on the ground, are the means for more to be. Advanced energetics is the vehicle established to help bring about most necessary means of recall. The elders, my soul, and I, all seek to remind you and your soul about the purposeful objective. Might you seek to recall it once again? Seek to enact steps so that a most necessary remembering can occur. Heritage and lineage. Have you wondered about your heritage or lineage? I read about those who wanted to know what they could glean from looking back at their own physical history. What historical perspective exists for them to discover within their family tree? What insight might be found there? Does a spiritual benefit, or really any advantage, exist there? Beyond garnering and recognizing certain physical traits or characteristics, there isn't a big net gain to be had. Yet, your individual past life heritage, and its lineage based on earlier lifetimes lived, are a more telling tale. It is truly a more interesting story, because it is your story. In our next book, Given in Love, the elders shared some short stories. These short stories are some of the past lives in my history. Together, they brought me here to this current life. These stories had some common occurrences in that they repeatedly brought the same negative energy into play. This energy limited each subsequent lifetime in a significant way. Past choices influence more than simply the lifetime led where the bad deed was done. You see, if the negative occurrence was significant enough, it became tethered to the soul. Thus, each subsequent embodiment became bridled with the energy equivalent produced in that former time. The good news is there are ways to remove what became layered upon and tethered to you. Yet, the first step is its recognition. When you recognize that something is off, don't push past and through it. Doing so does not allow for the resolution you seek. Nor does it allow for the restoration of the wholeness which is always sought. Yes, recognition is key. Ask the elders. I don't have all the answers, but the elders do. I haven't asked all that I might, or could. Yet, you have the means to ask what you would like to know. Ask here about reincarnation, especially if you're still not sure it exists. What do you want to know? I love reading questions I have never contemplated. So please ask. Then, move to enlist more this day in an unstoppable way. Source: arrayofflight.com. The other videos are in the English video playlist. Help me spread the light. Click like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.